And joining me now is LMPD Chief Paul Humphrey. So thank you so much for being here this evening with us.
Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk about weather has really been the big story this week. A lot of us drove into work seeing a lot of cars in the ditches, and we know LMPD has a policy not to respond to non-injury accidents. I want to ask you a little bit about that policy, but first, KSP, they helped nearly 300 stranded drivers, and ISP helped about 120 stranded drivers on Sunday alone. Can you tell me why it's LMPD's policy not to respond to these types of incidents?
So it's not about not responding, it's about the volume of incidents, and we have to prioritize those accidents where people are injured. So we know that there's going to be a high volume of accidents. We have to prioritize those ones where people are injured. And everything takes a little bit longer to do. So we're still making all those normal 911 calls. So in those non-injury accidents where nobody's at risk, we direct people to complete state forms, and they can go to our website. It's been pushed out on social media where they can go to complete those forms, and that'll speed the process up a lot for everyone.
All right, I do have a question when it comes to people responding. You guys posted it on your social media pages. Some of them saying that they don't agree with this policy, and they said LMPD doesn't even respond during weather when it is good because they don't feel like they are getting the response they need. What is your answer to some of the public out there who feels this way?
No, and I'm sorry that the public feels that way. We have, we have to prioritize those runs where there's emergencies, where people's lives are in danger, where there's some kind of threat. And so we are always going to put those ahead of issues related to property. So we try to make sure that we provide that service to the public the best that we can, but we are going to utilize the resources appropriately as we have them.
And does this come back to the manpower issue, being short several hundred officers? It almost seems like this continues to be the problem for the police department.
Yes, I mean, I think we have to face the reality that when you're down 250, 300 people, you cannot provide the same level of service that you provided before. And so that is the reality that we face. And so we have to make sure that we're allocating our manpower appropriately for our mission, which is to keep people safe.
All right, and switching gears a little bit, we want to talk about the consent decree. Last month, you and the DOJ agreed to reforms made to the police department, but the FOP and the police union, they filed a motion to intervene. They say it violates contracts and working conditions. What is your response to the FOP?
Well, the FOP plays an important role in making sure that they represent the rights, the employee rights of the officers here. And we as a city, we're not opposed to the FOP making sure that they take steps to protect those rights, just as with the amicus briefs that were filed by some other organizations that want to make sure that their voice is heard as part of this. We believe that voices at the table in this process, while that wasn't part of the negotiation process for various reasons, at this stage, we feel that we welcome the voices at the table.
And why wasn't the FOP included in this process?
So this was a negotiation strictly between the city, the police department, and the Department of Justice. So as the outside entity representing the union, they were not allowed during negotiations.
Okay, and I just want to get to another big story this week. We had 2 police shootings here recently. Police were shot at, and then police fired back. In your weekly press conference, you talked about there are a lot of other incidents that the public doesn't know about where police officers get shot at. Have you ever been in a situation like that? And what is the difference? You know, it's a split-second decision. What is the difference between an officer pulling the trigger and not pulling the trigger?
Well, there's so many factors that come into play there. And we talk about it when we give those press conferences on those officer-involved shootings, and we refer to the totality of circumstances that officers have to factor in when they're making those split-second decisions regarding use of force. And that's not just related to officer-involved shootings. It's every day the things that we do. So while we might be talking in this specific instance about officers being shot at, we're talking about instances where officers kick in doors and run into burning buildings to save people, officers who climb into cars that have been flipped over to save people. So it occurs on a day-to-day basis. While it doesn't make the headlines, this is the exciting, fulfilling work that officers get to do on a day-to-day basis out there. And I think we need to do a better job of telling that story and explaining to the public how much of a service these officers are out there providing.
Yeah, it is a dangerous job. So to all the men and women of LMPD, we thank you for your service and thank you for your time this evening.
I appreciate it, Fallon. Thank you.